the most distinguished members on the dais, members of the academia in the first couple of rows here, and all my dear students, a very warm good afternoon to you all. So I have been addressing large gatherings comprising of intermediaries. Sometimes I have even addressed my own seniors in my office. I had never felt a kind of, it was absolutely normal. But today, when I stand before you, I have a different feeling because I am seeing members of academia in the couple of rows. I am going back to my college days. That grilling of students by the professors, question and answers, how they have shaped us up in knowledge dissemination. So, as far as my students are concerned, I would like to say, as Professor Achalapati has already indicated the timelines, I may not take more than 10 minutes. You can take this as a word of caution or assurance. So all the previous speakers in the previous session, everybody has spoken about fraud and why fraud and how frauds are taking place and what is the nature. Fraud, everywhere fraud. This is what this was conveyed. So from the speeches of the earlier speakers, I am able to see that agenda for the discussion has been set. And being a regulator, being a SEBI, I am going to be in the fire line, line of fire. But seeing this capital market and seeing the fraudulent aspects in the capital market from the premises of an academic institution is one way of seeing. And once when you set out outside this institutional premises, when you see in the practical scenario of the capital market, what would be, how are you going to view it? We the regulators, how we see these frauds, how we are regulating this capital market. The topic of the issue is fraudulent activities in the capital market, issues and concerns. These issues and concerns, whether it should be only for the regulator or for the stake players or for the investors or all the three. So this is something which need to be known. You know, the mandate of SEBI, primary mandate of SEBI is investor protection. Along with investor protection, we have the mandate for development of the capital market and also regulating the capital market. Our SEBI is the only unique institution which has all the three functions of legislature, executive and judiciary. So if SEBI has to view the fraudulent activities in the capital market, only the fraudulent activities and how to curb that, then SEBI will reduce itself only to the role of being a vigilant watchdog. But SEBI, in addition to this investor protection, in addition to prohibiting these fraudulent activities, SEBI has also the responsibility of developing the market. So that SEBI has to play a major role in that. See, under FUTP regulations of SEBI, the fraud has been defined as and everybody has spoken about fraud, but what is the definition of fraud as per SEBI? That is very important to know. Fraud as an act by a person or his agent or an act committed by his connivance to induce another person to deal in securities, either by misrepresentation or omission or concealment of facts, false statements, by making promises without intention of performing it. So best example for this clause is these fraudulent CA schemes which are happening in the market now. The promises without intention of performing. Then acting recklessly to the detriment of the investors. These can be considered as fraudulent activities, whether or not there is a wrongful gain or avoidance of loss. This is the point which you should note. A fraudulent activity, not necessarily that it should result in how SEBI is viewing a fraudulent activity. Not necessary that people are saying greed. Yes, greed is one of the reasons, greed of the individuals. But fraudulent activity, it need not generate necessarily, it should result in a wrongful gains or avoidance of loss. This aspect has been included in our definition. It is not only to catch the individuals who are directly responsible for the fraud, but also the individuals in the entire chain of fraudulent activity. And again, there are several regulators in the financial market, but it is SEBI which has first included, you all must know about this mis-selling in the mutual fund industry. Mis-selling is considered as fraudulent activity, and it has been defined under this FFPICM regulations. So what are the reasons for these fraudulent activities? We need to understand two basic concepts in this. One is information asymmetry and agency problem. What is this information asymmetry? Information is unequally available to different market participants. Regulators endeavor that investors take informed investment decisions. Uninformed and ill-informed investors are at disadvantageous positions. This is precisely the reason that the regulators insist on issuers of securities to make true, fair and adequate disclosures in the prospectus, offer documents, scheme information documents, etc. Then as a regulator, SEBI, just by making a mandate for adequate disclosure, does it stop with that? That is a point to be seen. If you see that in a prospectus, prospectus has to be cleared by SEBI. SEBI ensures adequate disclosures, and these disclosure norms, it is not a one-time measure by the company, and it is a continuous requirement, not just until the issues hit the market, even thereafter. See, with the capital market growing, sophistications in concealment of information and circumventions of the regulations have also improved. You see the prospectus, the document prospectus running to several, sometimes it's even more than 100 pages. Then this concept of abridged prospectus has come. The concept of prospectus is to enable the investors to take an informed decision. Go through the prospectus, read about the company, their project, and take an informed decision. But in the prospectus, if it is going to be loaded with information which are relevant and which are not so relevant and which are irrelevant, and if it is loaded with such information, and there it has become an art of concealing the information which is essential for an investor to know, to take an informed decision, that is drowned or concealed in this irrelevant or not so relevant information in the prospectus. So even the abridged prospectus, sometimes it runs to 60 to 70 pages. What SEBI has done to make these investors to have the relevant information, what SEBI has done in this, SEBI has insisted that this abridged prospectus to be brought down not more than 10 pages, and it has prescribed more than the number of pages, it has prescribed what are the most essential information about the company, about the project, which should appear in the prospectus, so that investors take a clear view of that information and take an informed decision. Apart from that, see, disclosure norms, what is being given in the prospectus, again how investor protection is ensured by SEBI. SEBI has come up with a general order. SEBI is rating the prospectus submitted by these merchant bankers before money is mobilized from the public through IPOs. So rating this prospectus, there are standards are maintained and prescribed. If these prospectus, if these draft offer documents fall short of such standards, SEBI takes a proactive action in not clearing such a prospectus and initiating action against the merchant bankers, and also to the extent of the companies wishing to mobilize money are restrained from accessing the public for nearly a year. So this is another proactive step which SEBI has taken towards empowering the investors to take their informed decision. And you all know, somewhere in the previous speech also it was mentioned, so large scale activities take place at the time of listing of securities. It will get listed at 10 times, 20 times, or this many percentage more than the issue price. Then thereafter, the scripts will disappear. This has become an issue of past. It has become an history now. SEBI had introduced a system called as call auction mechanism, where the initial listing, manipulation of the prices during initial listing has been totally ruled out. If you can just see the data, in the recent past, there are no such instances. Then comes, when it comes to the secondary market, how we have empowered these investors. There is a document called as KYC, Know Your Client. See, we have made certain documents to be part of this KYC as mandatory. That is, one is investors' rights and remedies, and investors' do's and don'ts. And SEBI has even gone to the extent of, it may appear as micromanaging, but SEBI has gone to the extent of even telling to what extent, what should be the font size to be used in the print of these documents, so that the investors do not miss out the information. There is some risk disclosure documents which are being given to the investors. SEBI has standardized these KYC forms, and there is a document called as power of attorney, which is given, which empowers the stockbrokers to trade on behalf of the clients. SEBI has standardized. See, there used to be misuse of this power of attorney document by the stockbrokers, which SEBI has standardized these clauses in this power of attorney document, where this misuse of this document has been totally ruled out. In one case, SEBI has, even as a proactive measure, SEBI has while dealing with the stockbrokers, people used to have, it's called as mandatory settlement of accounts. Once in a quarter, when the stockbrokers manage the assets of the company, either the funds or securities, these funds and securities, brokers are given a running account authorization